remember hanging out in my hall, in my room, and I got this phone call to say I'd been invited to a camp, and I'd been selected for the team, and I didn't believe it when I first got the phone call.
You know, you just get this feeling in your tummy like, am I getting the call, am I in or am I out? Like...
Oh, and I was actually on the toilet. So I answered the call and he broke the good news. After he called me, he called Kitty, who was outside the bathroom. She was like, oh my gosh, your first call that you ever made the team, you were on the toilet. And I was like, yeah. I'll never forget it because of that.
Lou, I remember when you got the call up and you joined the Black Ferns in 2018. What was that like for you? Actually coming into the team for the first time?
It was really nerve-wracking, but everyone was so welcoming. What made it even more special was having Kitty there, so we were there together, experiencing that as sisters. Might be a bit different to you, Kench, 10 years prior.
You know, going in, 19 years old, just coming out of university and hadn't really been in the environment before. For me, it was like, walking on eggshells almost. You didn't want to put your foot wrong, and, I'm a halfback and I talk lots now, but you wouldn't believe it, the first 3 years in the team, I didn't say boo. So it was kind of a nerve-wracking time, but at the same time, the respect that you have for those players, you sat still and you learned. My debut was in Wanganui, and my first roomie was Anna Richards. She actually thought I had something wrong with me because I went to bed at like 8 o'clock and she goes to bed at like 1:30 a.m. So it was pretty special, and but just that feeling of walking in and, oh my gosh, it kind of it stays with you. It'll probably stay with you forever.
I did keep to myself in terms of how much I spoke within the team for a long time, because I just was in awe of all these people around me, just the mana that they held, not just in the Black Ferns environment, but also in their provincial environments. I debuted in England. Like, Twickenham was like packed. It was a packed house. I can just remember looking out into the crowd and just seeing a Kiwi flag being flown, and I think being so far from home, it was just a really cool moment to see that. I think I was pretty fearless at that time in my life. I was pretty young.
It's got to be one of the best memories, debuting. My first test, I debuted in Sydney against Australia. Heaps of my whānau that live in Australia, my sisters, my aunties and cousins came to support. My partner came over, running out, singing the anthem and trying not to cry. That's really hard. I think of how I played back then and all the things that I've been able to learn now, and I'm like, gosh, that was a terrible game.
Well, I couldn't control my emotions during the national anthem, and I just bawled my eyes out. You go onto the haka and, you're on debut and you actually forget about the game. You just want to get your actions right and the words right. So that's your first test really, to make sure you get that right. For me, it was a scrum, and I went to put the ball in on the wrong side of the scrum. So I had probably 1 or 2 minutes for about 9 years each game. I sat behind Emma Jensen for 9 years, so and I was comfortable to sit there. I learnt so much off her, and also off the older girls, and I'm so grateful for that it's probably helped mould me into the player I am today. That's what I feel my role is now on the side, is to give that back.
Obviously, been really lucky to be exposed to a really high level of coaching. You're not going to get better unless you play, against the world's best, and that's the cool thing about being in the Black Ferns, is representing your whānau and your country, your club, your province, and playing against the best in the world. It drove me personally to want to be a part of this team. I want to put my best foot forward in every game.